Before we start continuing on with our conversation, welcome everyone to the first recorded. I don't know that this will be the first one that I post because I'm going to be recording these like back to back, and it's only going to be in a row if I actually edit and stuff like I should when I should, which I'm not going to say I do all the time at all. So today we've got an exciting guest, Joshua Lee, on the channel. He has a fantastic channel, which will be linked down below. But I think it's perfect that we kick this series back off on the channel, the Unix Crew, where we're just talking with everyone in the Unix space, with a reinstall of a system, because Linux audio can be terrible, only to figure out after installing that it wasn't necessary. And it wasn't really Linux's fault.
No, it turns out to totally not be necessary. It's actually an issue with Discord on Linux right now, where apparently when I turn on my camera, it loses the microphone.
And only after, like, I don't know, how long has it been since we've started this call? Like 45 minutes?
It's like a 40-minute troubleshooting session. You know, yeah. I completely blew up a Gen 2 installation that I just installed last night to install Pop! OS. And I keep getting like these notifications telling me that you have 200 package updates to install because, you know, they never update their ISOs.
Yep. Because why do that? I mean, that's just a waste of time.
Yeah, that's just the thing that those rolling releases do.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't matter that the ISO is large in the first place, and then it's extremely annoying that when you install it to have literally like 300 like updates. That's going to take you another like 15 minutes to download and install. It's just like, thanks bro. Especially if you don't have fast internet. That's
especially
always great. But what were we talking about not too long ago with your server? Oh, yes, we were talking about your Gen 2 server.
Oh, yeah, because I turned it off.
Yes. So, I do have a question. Do you have that thing, like, is it like more modern hardware, or is it, you know, like older Xeon stuff?
It is not older Xeon stuff. It is actually first generation EPYC.
Power hungry would definitely describe it.
Power hungry, but you know I have 128 PCI Express threads, of which I'm only using one.
Why? Just why? Why are you only using one?
Because, you know, my server still runs hard drives, and they're connected to the SATA bus. Because, you know, we're running software RAID, and we don't want to be using a RAID controller. The SATA ports just happen to be there on the motherboard, so I'm using them.
Wait, but I have so many questions. Because typically, like, the PCI, like, when you have that many lanes, you have so much abundance of choice, which is why most people typically pick those CPUs. Why did you buy one over just a top-of-the-line consumer edition one?
You mean like a normal computer?
Like a Ryzen 7 or Ryzen 9. Like.
Oh, the reason why was because it was actually a cheaper solution at the time. It was a package deal. It was it's a Supermicro server, $700, complete kit, full redundant power supplies, full with memory. Just need to add the hard drives.
Dang. Okay. That's not bad.
So it's just like it was a better deal, so that's why I went with it. And you know, I have a 42U server rack, so it's just like I've got plenty of room on the rack to just like mount this server.
No.
And this is the server that is just like the Gen 2 build server for all my Raspberry Pis, because my Pis also run Gen 2.
That makes sense. Like,
it does make sense because you know what? When you can apply power to the Pi, which turns straight on and it boots in less than 3 seconds, it's fucking amazing.
yeah. Well, and with that beast of a CPU doing all the compilation work, like whenever it needs to be done, probably makes it a lot more usable.
On average, it takes longer for the Raspberry Pi to actually install the kernel binary than it takes for the server to compile it.
That's pretty awesome.
Because, I'm still using the SD cards, and my SD cards are actually kind of on the slow side. I don't have fast SD cards.
Wait, hold on. Like, what do you mean by slow side? Because, like, even moderate, like, SSDs that are pretty fast are only, like, around 100
I'm using the micro SD cards on the Raspberry Pis.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not using the USB ones. My Raspberry Pis are still using, like, these old micro SD cards that, I kind of just bought out of a bulk bin, like, several years ago.
Yeah, them bitches run at like 25 megabytes a second.
Yep.
They slow as hell.
Yep, they slow as hell, but you know what? They work.
Yeah. But I mean, the sad part is like for like $30 you could upgrade that and like literally easily double the performance.
I could, but I have a bucket full of them.
That is a fair point. I mean,
and
look, I'm arguing that point, but I'm not from that point. I'm a cheap ass.
Okay, so when it comes down to it, I have a Pi that's a dedicated Google Calendar machine. I have a Raspberry Pi that all it does is it pings my servers with the magic packets to wake them up with Wake on LAN. I have another Pi that is just a WireGuard server, and then I got another one that's running all my network. So it's literally my firewall.
Yeah, your network setup is much better than mine. Like, we just got the router and then devices hooking up to it. That's it. There's nothing fancy going on here. I mean, we've got a nice expensive router, but
I can safely say that I'm one of the very few people that actually know what the fuck they're looking at when they're looking at an IP tables configuration.
Yeah, that's something to be proud of. I've looked into IP tables and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on here. It's way over my head, and I don't plan on it becoming something I'm familiar with. But so, have you been doing anything other than reinstalling Gentoo here lately?
I have actually been delving into learning Microsoft Excel for the job.
Oh.
I know it's super sexy sounding.
Oh, but, of course.
But, we had to sit there and install Libre Office and get the spreadsheet utility. I think it's called, Math.
Yeah.
Yeah, or something.
So you're not actually using Microsoft Excel?
It's called Calc. I am using Excel at work because I'm required to learn it for work.
Oh.
Yeah. But,
wait, but... I mean, if you're already familiar with Calc, you can just export into Microsoft
That's
format.
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I gotta learn this stuff.
Ah, gotcha. It's not going to be fun.
No, it's not been fun.
No.
I'm sitting there trying to figure out why my VLOOKUP scripts are not working at all.
Dude, like with Excel, I remember a time in my life where I got really familiar with Excel. I stopped using Excel for 1 month. I forgot everything. Every single... I used to know, keyboard shortcut... Or maybe I put them in myself. I don't know. But, I used to have, keyboard shortcuts where I could make, a formatted table and then, automatically fill it with data that, I could easily grab from either another document or the same document. And now, after not using it for a month, I tried to go back and, just... I can't remember what I was trying to do, but I tried to do something in it, and I was an idiot. I had forgotten everything. Excel is just one of those things I have no interest in. So, I was doing marketing, and that's when I got, that's when I learned, how to use Excel like a pro.
You don't learn Excel for, your personal use. Ever.
Yeah, no.
It's always the fucking job.
Yeah. That's the only reason anyone I know knows Excel. They're never I was doing my taxes on an Excel spreadsheet. I know no one that does that. Why? What?
I mean, I dabbled in it a little bit when I was like super big in like Magic the Gathering, and it's like I'm gonna be a nerd about this and record all my victories in spreadsheets. That way I can figure out what I'm doing right.
Yeah. How long that lasts?
I actually did that for like a solid 2 years.
Damn.
Yeah, I was running through like the Star City Games tournament league and everything.
Holy crap. I can't believe you kept up like with doing Excel yourself.
Yeah, it turns out that I have a game win rate of something like 60%, and I have a game 2 win rate of like 30%, and a game 3 win rate of like 50%.
Jesus.
Yeah, something like that. It's been a while since I actually looked at those numbers, but I can't even remember how to set those fucking sheets up.
So, please tell me you've been doing something other than learning Excel, because that does not sound like a highlight of a week.
I've been delving into my own YouTube channel lately as well. I have like 6 or so videos that are recorded that are going through like my very bullshit method of editing, and then they're getting slapped up to like all the appropriate places. And then I have decided that because nobody gives me money on Patreon or anything like that, I'm just going to slap all my videos on like a library and PeerTube first, and they're going to be published as soon as they get uploaded, and then YouTube is going to get the shaft at Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Oh, really?
Yep. That's what we're deciding to do.
So you're going to PeerTube?
Well, you know, the guy that runs the Mastodon instance that I'm a member of, he's just like, oh yeah, I've also got like this PeerTube instance. And I'm like, I've never used PeerTube before. So it's like, yeah, we'll just, you know, play around with it. I'm not self-hosting it yet.
Wait, so where are you hosting it?
No, I'm not hosting the PeerTube at all. Somebody else is hosting it.
How does that work?
They make accounts and you can make an account there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, someone has to pay for it.
Yeah, don't ask him how it's working. He hasn't said anything yet. I've already uploaded like 5 videos.
Well, isn't that like? I mean, are you sure you want to switch over completely? Because that means
I'm not switching over completely.
Oh, okay.
It's just there because you know I'm also uploading on library too.
Well, you said YouTube's getting the shaft, so
yeah, YouTube is getting the shaft. As in, YouTube is not getting all the niceties of being graced by like the first platform to have my videos. Because it used to be that I used to rely on like the library sync to get everything pulled off of YouTube back onto the library network.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you don't know what library is, you've probably heard of Odyssey. Nope. Library is the back end for Odyssey. Mm-hmm. That's really what it is.
Yep. I mean, that's exactly what it is. They used to have the equivalent of Odyssey, but then Odyssey was so much better than they just reevaluated and they're like, why even spend development time on it? Like, if a third party's doing a better front end, just let them do the front end. We'll do the back end, which is a smart way of going about it, because it was very confusing to tell people about library, have them go to library.com, then figure out that, oh no, to get to the like YouTube type page, it's library.tv. Like it was confusing that way. But yeah, like the library is awesome. It's just the community there can be a little bit more toxic if you don't like have any moderator, like any moderation ability, or like you do your own moderation, because it's not like YouTube. Like they don't have like bots that try to like, you know, moderate your channel very effectively. I mean, they just don't have the YouTube resources to put into that type of stuff, which again doesn't make it a bad platform. It's great. Especially
it's a great platform, and honestly, like it's a better platform than PeerTube is right now, because you know they're not building to like be self-hosted. If you want to self-host the library instance, you just self-host like an Odyssey instance, and you just connect that to the library network. Which the biggest drawback that I have for like Odyssey and library is that in the past they've marketed themselves as like the free open speech platform, and just really push that, which you've noticed that they're not doing that so much these days.
Yeah.
But that would have just immediately drawn like the worst of the worst crowds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
you know, it would pull in like Alex Jones and like all of his supporters and stuff like that, or even just like the extreme far right as well as the extreme far left as well.
Yeah.
And they
And
would
they just
all
have
just
battles and
in fact,
comments.
if you're still looking through like the recommendations on like Odyssey, like on like a very empty account like mine, it is very unfiltered, and there's still a lot of that being posted on there.
Yep. It's well, I mean, it's the Wild West,
Yeah,
which is good. It's just different. Like it's
it's
just
good
different than
and
YouTube.
bad. The one thing I can say that they're doing right is that they are not. Is that when they're coming up with like these recommendations, they're not using a super complicated algorithm or anything. When
No.
you're looking at like your own followers feed, which is just like their equivalent of subscribers, that's not being filtered at all. That is being listed to you by most recent.
Yeah.
And honestly, like that's probably going to be like the best solution for a platform like this.
Yeah. The only problem with Odyssey at the current moment is, well, Odyssey doesn't have like the reach that YouTube does.
No, it doesn't.
That's the main problem with it. Which, like, it just kind of depends on what your like goal is. Like to me, like if you're on YouTube, you should, especially being someone who's like in the Unix space, you should definitely be backing your stuff up to Odyssey because it's literally no work. Like you just
Yeah, you
make
just
an
make
account.
you don't even technically really make an account. You give them an email address, then you click a link in like your email, and
Yeah.
then there you go. You're signed in. You're signed up. You're good to go. You
Mhm.
create the channel, and then you just set up the YouTube sync. It takes like forever. My channel actually refuses to sync because I've got like 1,000 different live streams that are like more than 3.5 hours. We have to install
Live
Gen 2 that
streams,
many
yeah,
times. Yeah.
yeah. Live streams will not. Typically, live streams. I think it's any live streams that are over 2 hours will not
Yeah.
transfer over.
That said, my YouTube channel, I actually kind of don't want to like sync the entire thing anyway because I have my YouTube channel is like more than 10 years old. It is a really old channel, and I've been posting there every now and then. So like you can look at my channel, you can scroll back, you can see where I played like World of Warcraft, Magic the Gathering online. There was a whole time there where it's just like I did nothing but post Monster Hunter videos.
Well, I mean, my channel, if you go back on it, like it originally started off with like me playing VR content and like gaming and stuff, and
Yeah.
then completely changed into Unix. Well,
Yeah, I
Linux.
still like live stream my D&D campaign there like weekly, which probably is not like the best thing to do for like YouTube algorithm.
Yeah.
But
For some reason, YouTube doesn't find long D&D sessions very advertiser like.
there's only one.
But that's about it. Like it's.
Yep.
I mean, it's weird. Like Odyssey is like a platform that you want to be on mainly just because if anything happens to YouTube, it is better for free speech. Like they're
Yes.
not actively censoring anybody over there.
Yeah, and the biggest disadvantage that it has is that Odyssey and PeerTube both are better for the content creator,
Yeah.
but they're not better on the other side, the consumer.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
realistically,
Odyssey is the best out of them, but it's still not the best for the user. It's
no, it's
still
really
in favor of the creator.
yeah, because the one benefit that YouTube still has, and Jupiter Broadcasting has said this multiple times, is discoverability. I mean, when you sit there and you're looking at YouTube channels and you're like looking up like say Linux videos, who's going to show up? You're going to get like people like DistroTube. It used to be that you would get Brian Lunduke, but he doesn't really show up that much anymore.
Yep.
Although he did recently start posting again. I've been actually really enjoying like his little news articles that he's been covering. So it's great that Brian Lunduke is back to posting on a platform that I don't have to pay him to watch him on.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird that in it's just weird that we don't have a solid competitor to YouTube that's better for the viewer. Like, I mean, Odyssey's not bad for the viewers, but it's not nearly as good as YouTube. Like, just YouTube does cater to the viewer very well. And I don't know. I say that, and then I'm like, I don't know. I mean, if you think about it, you're constantly bombarded with ads. Like, even by default, like I haven't done anything with my channel, but I've turned monetization on, and I've noticed that by default, I don't even know like if I can turn it off. I'm sure I can in the monetize tab when I create a live stream, but I just haven't like played around with the options. But as far as I know, when I start a live stream now, like anytime when I start it, if you're in there right as it starts, you get an ad, which is just awesome. Like, thank you, YouTube. Like, they definitely don't want to see me say hi. Like,
no, we don't need to say hi to everybody. We just have to expect everybody to be using AdBlock.
Exactly.
Which then completely defeats the purpose of you turning on monetization, because now you're not getting paid for it.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's weird. Like, and
realistically, like, the best solution that we have for like content creators, and really the best solution is just a single client. It could be a website or like a desktop client that indexes all the different services at once.
Yeah.
And then when you go to watch like the video or something, it plays it in that same client, and you don't have to like go out and reach out to like a different service.
No. I mean, I'm loading up Odyssey right now just to check it out. And see, like, here's another thing about Odyssey. It is also terribly unreliable. It's not even loading right now for me. So,
but
the ad on the page is Odyssey.com. Yeah.
Are you spelling Odyssey right?
Yeah. No, I mean, like, the page has loaded, but none of the videos on it load. Title names.
Yeah, the Odyssey website is hot garbage. Just use the library client, which you can still download and install on your Linux machine. They give it to you as an app image. It works.
But see, I mean, like, this is my point. Like, Odyssey is so close to being, like, the competitor to YouTube. But, I mean, do you remember the last time that YouTube, like, was completely down for everybody?
It's been a while.
Exactly.
It's been a good long while.
Exactly.
I think the last time that happened was when Google's SSL certificate expired in 2008.
And see, like, YouTube always works. I just loaded it up, and of course, it's up working.
And you know, being a guy with like the internet service that I have, where it's just like I have a DSL internet service, and it's fed to me on a dumb pipe, so it's as fast as the ISP can deliver to me, but because it's DSL, it's hardware limited to like 25 megabytes per second. Sometimes I get that. Most of the time, I get a lot less than that. And when my internet speed is like so variable, it screws up a lot of these third-party clients, like PeerTube, and well, actually no, it doesn't mess up PeerTube, but it tends to mess up clients like Odyssey. I can't even watch most streaming services because of how variable my internet speeds can be. Because they'll stop and buffer.
Yep.
That's what they do. They stop and buffer. They attempt to dynamically adjust their resolution, and then they always set it to be too high. So then it buffers, and then I just rage quit and just go to YouTube.com.
Yep.
Because the one thing that YouTube has done right is their transcoding and their dynamic display resolutions.
Yep.
You can watch YouTube on dial-up still.
Yep. Which is incredible. Like,
yeah.
Do you know how much work it takes to get a video stream playing on dial-up? Like,
it takes a lot.
A lot. Just so you know, your webcam is down.
Of course it is.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to let you know. And
yeah, I refreshed.
here we are.
Yeah.
Well, like it's just it. I think we will probably end up with YouTube being pushed out of the space eventually, but I don't think it's ever going to happen soon. Like next 5 years or some shit like that. Like YouTube will eventually start being competed with on a serious level, but I mean, the only reason that Odyssey works as well as it does, like with video streaming now, is because it's riding on the back of YouTube's transcoding. Because if you upload straight to Odyssey, like you don't get any of the transcoding benefits unless they've recently fixed that, which they probably have. I heard that they were adding that. But yeah, like that's a big deal. Like you need that. And PeerTube just the only thing that holds PeerTube back and makes it completely not feasible in my head is you have to self-host it. Like you have to. I mean, if you don't self-host it, like, I mean, you're paying for a VPS no matter what. Like, you're going to be, again, somehow self-hosting it if it's not locally, and you, at that point, like the expense.
Yeah, it turns out that running a video streaming service is super expensive.
Yeah. And that just makes it completely unfeasible.
And this is why I don't think we're ever actually going to see like an actual good competitor for YouTube that is not using something like a peer-to-peer system like PeerTube is.
Well, but that's the thing. Like the peer-to-peer idea works with Audacity because, or not Audacity, Odyssey and Library, just because the Library network.
Well, Library is not using peer-to-peer. When I'm talking about peer-to-peer, I'm talking about like hooking everything into like a federated system, which Library is not. That's blockchain based.
Yes, but
so as long as there are Odyssey clients and websites that are sitting there mining the Library currency, that's where all the infrastructure for that service is.
Yeah.
What PeerTube does is it hooks into the BitTorrent protocol. And it connects to all the other various PeerTube instances, going back to like the video files that are like synced between them. And what it'll do is it'll serve you the video over BitTorrent, which is why there is no like actual central server. It's just a bunch of different servers that are just like being fed to you as seeds from different places.
Well, but you still have to, like, you have to host your own videos yourself.
Yeah, you do have to host them yourself. Which, that's where the expense really comes in, is the storage. At least for, like, you and me. But, like, somebody that's, like, servicing a video platform, the real cost is not going to be the storage, because you're going to be paying that anyway. But it comes down to, like, the usage of, like, the transcoding. Because you have to use some pretty beefy hardware to do what YouTube does.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Damn. Well, hopefully YouTube just doesn't become pure evil. Like, I mean, it's debatable that it's not already gotten there, but I don't think
there are still ways that you can like be. You can circumvent YouTube being evil. You know, having a dedicated to Google account specifically for PeerTube that you will only ever log into if you're connected from a specific device running through a specific private network. So, like a VPN on one device only. No. And that device is not running any GPS or anything like that. It's a completely sandbox device, other than it plays YouTube videos. So if you want to make sure that YouTube is never evil in your life, that's how you do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't care that much, clearly, because I post to it, and I make I don't make a lot of personal info public, but I make more than a lot of people feel comfortable with public, and so. I don't know. I'm not against YouTube at all, but I definitely think that they need competition Like,
yeah, they do need competition. That part is true. Unfortunately, all their competition is coming from like these media companies that are wanting to offer the streaming services.
yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, if we talk like bigger than just YouTube, Google as a company, like most of their competitors, they're paying to compete with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because without them, they're a blatant monopoly, and it's just a weird legal like loophole that like where you can just subsidize your own competition so that you don't break laws where you have to pay more money for being a monopoly or just illegal in general. Like it's very weird. I don't like it, but at the same time, it has to be that way because I mean Mozilla's not on their own going to be able to compete. Like if they lost that $400 million from Google, I don't know that
it would close tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think we'd have Firefox, Thunderbird actively developed much at all.
No, and you know what? I care more about Firefox and Thunderbird than I care about the rest of their products. So,
what other products? Hold on, can we go off here? What other products do they fucking have that's worth?
They have a VPN service.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they fucking don't.
They do.
They have a rebranded VPN.
Yeah, they have the Mozilla VPN, which is Molvad VPN. So it's actually pretty reputable as a company that's like running the backup for it, which is pretty cool.
But why wouldn't you just get from Molvad?
You'd have to ask them. They have
Pocket. I'm asking. You're the one who's saying that it's a good product. So
I'm trying to defend Mozilla's choices here.
No, because if you're gonna defend them, you have to state why you would use it. And if you have no fucking clue why you would use it, it shouldn't be a product. Like, if you're a potential customer and you can't even tell me why you would use it, it's a problem.
Okay. One thing that I do actually use, and I actually don't mind that much, is Firefox Pocket service.
But that's a part of Firefox.
That is a part of Firefox. Yeah. But it's also an independent service. So, you can pull up like your Pocket catalog in like Chromium if you want.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, Pocket is proprietary, yes. And they do serve and sell your data, yes. But for what it does, it's great because you can. So say like you're wanting to read a news service, and like that news service is sitting there, they're locking you behind the paywall. Just give the link for the news service in the Pocket, and then you can read the fucking article because they strip away a bunch of stuff and serve you just the text.
But the problem is with Pocket, again, trying to justify this to a potential customer, does exactly the same thing that every other proprietary service from the other competitors do when it comes to the equivalent of it. And it's like the justification of, well, it's by Mozilla doesn't have nearly as much weight since Mozilla as a company put out that they're kind of down with censorship. Like, I mean, that's a hard one to backstep away from.
Yeah, that one is a hard step to step away from because, the last thing I want to be doing is having a software company that creates this free and open source software. And it might not be Libre software, but, it's monetarily free and it's open source. But I don't think that we should be removing like Yandex as a default search option for people that install Firefox in Russia, because we disagree with what Russia is doing right now. That's not something that you, the software company, should be doing. No. You could but publicly, I guess it's all right. But the biggest issue that I have is like the Git commit messages that they use for this. Mm-hmm. Didn't even fucking mentioning what they were doing.
Well,
you can see what
no
they were
matter
doing
what. negatively affecting users of your software because you disagree with them is insane. Like,
that too, yeah.
No matter how you justify it, it's still insane.
Yeah, and this stretches back to like 3 or 4 years ago, like the ethical software movement.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like that movement is just completely against like everything that we've heard from like Richard Stallman.
Well, it's against the entire mentality of the space.
Yes,
Like,
yeah, that. So it's just like, can we just make good software?
Well, that's the whole that's the whole point of the movement, because that should be the focus. Like,
that should be the focus. Can we just make good software and then let the users fight with themselves?
Exactly. Like, focus on the users. Let the users do what they want to do. Like, and two, like, especially with like the ethical software movement, like the thing that I don't think most of the people who support that movement understand is like it's a very dangerous idea, because the box that you put someone into, like the traits that you would assign to someone that put them in a group where they shouldn't be allowed to use your software, that can always grow. Like,
yep.
And it probably will, because it's a new thing, so it's starting. It's going to continue. Like, everything grows and develops over time. And so there's nothing to stop you from becoming the oppressor that needs to be like locked out of your software. Like, someone could literally make the argument that because you developed it and you hold power over because you're the author of the software and you control where the development leads, you're now an oppressor and you need to be locked out of using your own software so that the community can develop. Like, the box that you put that whole shit in, it never works. Like, you can't start doing that.
I mean, it works, but it only works for like the short term. Like, long term, the long-term ramifications of this whole idea that we need to like control who uses our software, that's a dangerous proposition.
No,
because you guys have to remember, there is no community chair in the Linux Foundation.
Yeah.
The people paying Linus Torvalds are just the big corporations.
Mm-hmm.
Once Linus Torvalds leaves, I'm scared as fuck as what's going to happen with the Linux kernel development,
Well, yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of happy to be away from Linux. Because there is, as soon as, at any point, Linus could be like, it's time for me to walk away. And when it is time for him to walk away, the odds that there's not a, like, Microsoft or... I'm trying to think. Who's the other really big... I mean, Google is another really big one.
Okay,
there's going to be some patsy put in place.
The biggest corporations that are currently contributing to Microsoft or to the Linux Foundation, that's VMware, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and I can't remember the rest of them. I think Oracle's still there. But it's just like, none of these companies I feel particularly great about, maintaining my kernel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the funny part is they already are.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
That said, Red Hat is still like a majority contributor, so I will put my faith in Red Hat. Even though they're owned by IBM, I will still put my faith in Red Hat.
Well, but I mean, the thing about Red Hat and IBM is, where does IBM get a lot of their funding?
Yeah.
Exactly. I know. Like, that's the kind of scary part about Linux in general, is even the best in the space are still being propped up by corporations, because I know this is going to be... I don't think it's going to be controversial, but it's going to be a stinging statement that is true.
I mean, it's your
channel. Don't like... Yeah, exactly. We don't like paying money. Like, just as a community, we don't. And so... The bigger players in the space that need the money have to get it from the undesirables who actually have the money, and they'll pay. Like, it's, I don't know, it's a bad place to be in, but also how do you fix it without just altruistic people getting together and spending shitloads of cash? That's pretty much the only answer right now people have.
I mean, I could agree with you by just looking at like the whole CentOS debate. I mean, I like to still bring it up, and it's especially relevant for like this conversation because a lot of these big companies that were using CentOS on like their servers as like their hypervisor and stuff like that, really were just using CentOS because they didn't want to pay for RHEL.
Yeah.
Red Hat at this point is a yearly subscription license for like 300 something bucks a month. It's like $12 per machine.
Yeah, it's really high.
Yeah. That and like their support team, I have actually called before, and they are fucking amazing at their job. Like you can tell them that you've compiled your own kernel that way you can enable ButterFS, install the ButterFS progs from Apple, and they will sit there and they will do their best effort to support you.
Damn.
They don't even try to leave.
Well, at least it's good to know the money's going to like.
Yeah, so the money there is going somewhere. So the money that you're paying Red Hat is actually worth it. So it's just like, if you're upset that CentOS died because Red Hat wanted to make money, you have to remember that the reason CentOS died is because nobody was giving CentOS money.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Like, if something like, I mean, OpenBSD is a good example here. If something continues to exist and be supported, even without massive funding, that's not something that you should like demand out of something. That's something that you should be thankful for. Something that gets paid for money is going to, like, that is the thing that you should expect to continue to exist and have at least some reliability under it, at the very least. And thankfully, RHEL is hyper reliable. I've used it before. The free where you don't have to pay for it, but you only get like one license for like one computer. But
well, right now it's free for up to 16 devices. So if you've never used Red Hat before and you've actually been curious about it, right now is a perfect time to sign up for a Red Hat developer subscription.
There you go.
Because you can run many small businesses off of just that developer license.
Damn. Okay. Did not know that.
Lighted it's self-support, so you don't get the magic phone number. But it's Red Hat.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, RHEL itself is not something that you're gonna like install and be like, well, I broke it, like, right off the bat. Like, well, if you do that, then you're probably doing some stuff where, I mean, why you broke it.
In general, I have a phrase where I say that it's the GPL software. I can do whatever the fuck I want with it.
Yeah.
And I also know the cost that same statement also provides. So it's just like, if I break it, it's because I done fucked up. I don't expect anybody else to fix this for me.
Well, and that's the nice thing about RHEL. Yeah. You have that option.
You have that option. I just wish the documentation was better.
Well, I mean, you're talking to an OpenBSD user now, so like, yeah, I genuinely don't think there's any Linux distro that I've ever come across that has documentation as good as OpenBSD. Documentation from OpenBSD, I've kind of not learned about, but learned to appreciate how difficult writing really solid, like not just well written, but concise documentation is. It's not easy.
It's not easy at all.
It's really easy to get either too complex or too like specific or brush over something that you shouldn't. Like, it's very difficult. And like, to me, it's just impressive that we have documentation that is as good as it is for as complex software that Linux has in it nowadays. Like, it's surprising that we have documentation where you can read through the FFF MPEG like documentation. The fact that even is something that's still maintained like today is incredible. It is trying to write that type of documentation has to be an absolute nightmare. Like,
with a project with as many use cases as FFmpeg probably has, fuck yeah.
Exactly. Like, because I mean, you can do so much with the more complex your software is, and even more so, the more complex the software that you can support is. Like by nature, the documentation has to be more complex, and trying to keep that readable and simplistic for people that's a challenge.
Yeah. That said, it would be amazing if like all the documentation for OpenBSD was actually on a local system because apparently the man command doesn't pull up everything.
Most of it does.
Most of it does, but not some of the things I was trying to find.
What were you trying to find?
It's just like how can I get Zaney on OpenBSD, or how can I get like these GNOME tools on OpenBSD. It would be nice if I could figure out like how to do like a package search. I never actually took the time to actually read like the man page for the package tool. So I imagine that's probably something you can do, but I kind of quickly grew to hate the package tool because of how slow it was.
Yeah, it is slow, which
the fact that it takes longer to install Firefox using a local mirror on OpenBSD than it takes for me to grab the source and compile it on Gentoo, or grab the source and compile Audacity on Gentoo, astounds me. Because this is supposed to be a binary distribution, right? The package manager, you call the command, you're done within 5 minutes.
Yeah, it is slower. I don't know. I have some options set in my sysctl.conf, and I don't know if that genuinely helps with like. It has to do with network. I just copied it from root BSD. I have no idea like whether or not it genuinely positively impacts performance. But I always add it, so like it. For me, it's fast, but I also don't have super slow internet. So like
yeah.
When you have slower, I mean, not super slow internet, but when you still have slow internet, any performance impact on download speeds is so more noticeable. Like, so more noticeable. Like, for me, if my download speed is impacted by, like, 40 megabytes, I'm downloading at 260 something, so it's, it's not bad.
I have used Arch Linux before, as much as I like to joke about how I refuse to run Arch Linux, I have used it before, but they have this fancy tool called Reflector that pulls down like mirrors and indexes and performance tests them for you.
Yeah.
That command literally does not work on my internet connection because it times out.
Really?
It times out and it errors out, and I have to declare my mirrors manually on Arch Linux.
That's interesting. I get why it times out, though, because it does performance.
You understand why it times out, because my internet speed is literally as fast as they can possibly serve it to me, which is not fast at all.
That's so like I had not thought about that, but now that makes sense because I was talking with someone else like quite a while ago and they were talking about how Arch Linux, like whenever it got to like the mirrors section, they always had like a terrible issue, like it would never work. Mm-hmm. And like I didn't think about it, but as far as I know, they were in like either Iran or like like a Middle Eastern country with like servers probably not near them. And I didn't think about that. Like that's probably it. Like your internet's not great. Like Reflector, it will performance test as far as I know every single mirror it can grab.
It can grab every single mirror according to Arch Linux, which is like 200 something mirrors, and it will grab them, index them, and sort them. Yes.
Yeah. And
the problem is when your internet speed changes while it's doing the performance test.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I have inconsistent internet speeds.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
That's why it fails.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not timing out because it can't establish a connection. It's timing out because it can't figure out how fast it's fucking going.
It's trying to do its job, and it's like what the fuck is going on?
But it fails. So you know what? I've taken the time before, just sit out and physically plot out like where all the US mirrors are and find like the 5 closest ones to me, because you should never just use one mirror for Arch Linux. Ever.
No.
Never. Minimum is 5.
Yep.
So I've taken the time to plot out like the 5 physically closest mirrors, because those are theoretically supposed to be the fastest, and I just manually declare them in the pacman.conf/mirror list.
Dude, it's been so long since I've used Arch now. Like for me, like being off of Arch for any significant amount of time just feels weird. Like it was my home. Then I moved to Gentoo, and now I'm on OpenBSD. Like it feels weird. Like
when you decide that you're going to move off of Arch Linux and go to Gentoo, which introduces you into Unix, you want to learn more Unix. And so what is more Unix than BSD? So let's switch over to OpenBSD.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's literally how it worked. Like, Gentoo did make me much more interested in just the underlying system itself. Because with Gentoo, it's hard to convince yourself that Linux is a simple system. Like, it's not simple. Like, it's many, many, many different parts that are working together. Like, especially if you go from Gentoo to LFS, you understand just how much a package manager is doing. Like, trying to write a package manager that is going to do everything that Portage does, good luck.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. You might as well sign your life away for the next 25 years.
Yeah, there's a reason why they wrote Portage in Python.
Yeah. It's nuts, man. Like, especially with LFS. Like, LFS is what really got me to understand, like, because Gentoo takes care of a lot of stuff for you. It does definitely show you how much more complex Linux is, and that's a good thing, like, that it's complex, because it can accomplish so many different tasks.
That, and you learn so many weird niche case things that it's just like, maybe in the future, it's just like, I'm having like this weird issue. It used to be that you would just default to the reinstall, but now, you might still have to do a little bit of Googling, but you're more knowledgeable in like that area, and like manually configuring like Wi-Fi networks with WPA supplicant, for example.
Well, troubleshooting any issue after
just troubleshooting any issue just becomes easier.
Yeah, and the great thing about Gentoo is that knowledge is portable, like, everywhere.
Yes,
you can be talking to someone who's running Debian, and them describe their issue and be like, I don't know that this will solve the issue, but I can pretty much guarantee you if you try this, it'll work. And 9 times out of 10, it will, just because, I mean, the stuff, like, the issues that someone else is going to have on their system, even if you haven't encountered that exact issue, but you've had a similar one, like, the root of solving it is typically, like, so similar, it applies everywhere.
Yes, and you want your mind blown?
Yeah.
I have a local bank here. It's a standalone bank. It's not part of a large network at all. In their basement, they have their own mainframe. Fresh out of 1983. It's still running, and it's running AT&T Unix.
Damn.
And who is it that they call to maintain this thing whenever they have a problem?
Please tell me it's you.
Well, they call the IT guy, and the IT guy calls me. But
what are you doing? The real question is why has this bank not updated their mainframe?
They don't want to pay for it. Yet at the same time, I told them after their last serial ATA hard drive, not SATA, serial.
Yeah. Of course.
Serial ATA connection. You know, after their last failable drive failed, they have no more data redundancy.
I'm listening, and I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah. So they are riding on failure. It's going to happen one of these days. In the meantime, my Gentoo server over there has a exact copy that is fed to me every single hour via the CP command of their entire database.
What?
Because rsync's not a thing on Unix.
Hold on. That has to be against some type of regulations.
Well, that server right there is on a direct serial connection. Because this bank is that server connects to, well, it runs through a virtual machine, right? The virtual machine is connected to a dial-up modem that connects to that bank directly through a dedicated phone line. It's a plain text database, so it's actually super small. But it takes like 40 to 50 minutes to get the last transactions from the hours fed and backed up to this server. But they have a fucking backup.
Why would they not just pay to update this? Oh my Christ! Like, there is no way that a system to replace that from you said early 80s?
Okay. Have you ever taken somebody and put them in front of a terminal console before?
Yes.
And see how they can't figure out what's going on?
Yes.
Now imagine it the other direction, where they're used to working in a terminal console, and now you're introducing them to Microsoft Windows.
Yeah.
It's the exact same problem, just from a different perspective. They don't want to change their workflow.
But God, you have to.
Yeah, they have to at this point, and we've already brokered out a deal. The IT guy.
Wait, hold on. I just want to know, what is the raw size of their entire database that's stored
56 gigabytes.
That's what I thought. I thought it would be retardedly small.
It is 56 gigabytes, and I have 2 years of transactional history. Lighted, it's all encrypted before it gets fed to me, so I can't look at any of this.
I assumed that much.
It is all encrypted.
I didn't ask because that should be a given.
It's using base RSA encryption because that's as far as AT&T Unix can actually go with its encryption. So I could break it pretty easy, but it's encrypted.
This is the best shit ever.
I know, right?
From a security standpoint, if something was to happen, malicious with this data, and they had to explain this to the local police department, as soon as an IT professional from the police department gets involved, they would be so perplexed.
Yeah.
No one at all mentioned that you should update this? We had a few people, everyone that we talked to.
Looking into this, I have actually grown to realize that, the entire American economy basically operates just like this.
Well, I would assume so, because they're cheapskates. You don't want to update your
there are still VPS providers that are operating off of a 2.4 kernel.
What?
Yes. I still see Ubuntu 12 dot whatever servers.
Good Lord. That's ridiculous.
I've seen somebody using a Mandrake server.
Oh my god.
You want to talk about retro? It is nowhere near as retro as this fucking bank. But this bank has the Unix server, and the only reason why I get to work on this server is because the computer repair guy knows that I know something about Linux. So by contrast, that knowledge should be transferable, right?
Yeah.
It's not. It's not. I only had to buy a $300 book off of eBay, and hope and pray that was actually in good enough condition.
Yeah, that's definitely worth it.
Yeah, just had to buy the AT&T Unix System Administrator's Handbook. It's this thick, that thick. It's a fucking big chonker of a book, but it tells me everything about the system.
Oh my god. That's just like buying a textbook for school. I spend multiple $100s on this textbook.
Yep.
And I'll need it this once.
Yep, and thankfully, I'm pretty well experienced in spinning up my own telephone service. Because I've done stuff like that before, so it's just okay. So setting up a dial-up connection to establish an offsite backup is going to be better than nothing. I'm also best buddies with the ISP's network admin, so maybe I can buddy bullshit myself a phone line, which is what I did. The fact that I have the network administrator for my ISP on a local phone, I have him on fucking speed dial. Can you imagine that relationship with your ISP?
Again, I wish. Like, that would be incredible.
It is fucking incredible. So it's just like, man, I kind of want Starlink, but at the same time, I really don't.
Yeah. Why leave? Well, all right, man. I think we have talked for a while, and we could definitely keep talking for longer. But I think we should probably go ahead and end it off here. Just to go ahead and end it off, I will go ahead and say, before you like the video, subscribe, whatever on YouTube, head down to the description, Josh's channel description, or link and stuff will be down there.
Stuff is down there.
Yeah, you'll find all of his links that he sends me. I'll post them all down there. And also, hopefully you guys will enjoy the return of this series, because I have quite a few people scheduled throughout this week. And so there's going to be plenty of these coming on the channel. Josh, hopefully I'll have you back on again here before too long.
Yeah, not a problem. Bear in mind, I'm nowhere near as knowledgeable as like some of the other people that you're probably going to be talking to one of these days. But one thing is that I'm at least willing to try it.
Well, speaking of willing to try it, thank you for recommending that I check out the Call Window Manager and do a video on it, because it's definitely converted me.
It's just like I've seen RootBSD like talking about it before, so it's like, oh, you know what, RootBSD apparently likes it. I don't know anything about it. Like, I don't know if it's a tiler or if it's a floater or what.
Yeah,
it's just like, I guess I have a video to watch.
Yeah, I talk about it not super in depth, but I definitely go into it, and it's really good. It's not DWM, but I think I like it. Like, I think I'll probably be sticking with it. But yeah, before we go, I'll also go ahead and say thank you to my fantastic patrons, which Josh is one of. So thank all of you guys. I won't go ahead and list them off here because I'm sure this video is long enough. So thank all of you guys. And if you want to check those, like my own links, they'll be below Josh's in the description. Bye.